Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirklees Guitar School. So what you're about to see is a 5-week mini course that I did with our Facebook community on how to improvise on the electric guitar. So I just wanted to set some expectations before you watch the rest of this video because it's a long one. Over 5 weeks I set out a roadmap to try and get guitar players who haven't improvised over a blues before to be able to play and improvise over a couple of backing tracks using minor pentatonic scales. Now this topic, if any of you have started studying it, is a vast one and it can take years. And it does take years for you to get really good at this. What I was trying to do is I was trying to give the guitarists in this group a brief synopsis of what it entailed and give them a taste for it to see if it was something that they'd want to pursue. So spread out over the 5 weeks, we're literally from week 1, we'll go into what is a pentatonic scale, how do you improvise, through to call and response, using some different scales, hammer-ons, pull-offs, changing key, and I'd be really interested to hear what you thought about it in the comments. Now what I've done is, there's a free PDF. If you go to the first link in the description, there will be a PDF that you can download with all the paperwork for all 5 lessons, all barreled together into one big file. I'd recommend that you got that for your own reference. It's completely for free. Head to the Facebook group, join the group, navigate to the Files tab and you'll find every PDF for every lesson I've ever done. And there's some really sort of challenging solos and stuff in there. It's well worth your time and it's completely for free. I don't want anything from you. We've also established this amazing Facebook community of people who are really enjoying playing the guitar and egging each other on for the progress. And if you are that way inclined, I do recommend that you really get stuck into that. Please, I've put all 5 weeks together into one video. This isn't designed to be sort of taken all in one hit. Bookmark this video, keep coming back to it, give yourself a bit of space between the lessons and it'll go in a lot better. Softly catch a monkey, a little bit at a time. If you'd like me to do another course like this on another topic on playing the guitar, let me know in the comments and we'll see what we can do. Thanks for watching. So week 1 is what I've called the basics of improvisation and we're working on foundational skills. So we're going to learn and practice the pentatonic scale shapes using shape 1 and shape 2 of the A minor pentatonic. We're going to stick in A minor today. This will develop over time, mind. We're going to introduce the root note, why that's important, and what I call money shot bends. And also linked in the description is a simple backing track in A minor that you can use to solo over, and all these scales that we're going to talk about work today. And there's an assignment at the end of this, but we will save that for the back end of this video. So I can't use the video that I'm linking in the description because it's not mine and it's not fair for me to use, but you guys might as well get, give some views to the guy that made this backing track. With 4 different backing tracks spread out across the 4 weeks, and the feel changes ever so slightly, and the whole goal of this is over the next 4 weeks to make you a lot more confident as an improviser. So we're starting right at the beginning, okay? If you know shape 1 and shape 2 pentatonic, great, but I don't think it's a bad thing that you spend some time working on going over the basics, because most of my improvising I spend in those 2 positions. And I know them all. I've memorised all 5 of the pentatonic positions, and there's so much other stuff that we'll get into. But sometimes going back to the drawing board and really back to basics can really give you a nice little nudge in the right direction. So I talk about improvising, and I'm asking you all to play a clip. Exactly what are you supposed to do? Well, we're going to use these scales today. A minor pentatonic, position 1, and position 2. Now you should all be fairly confident with at least the first position. That is like the first scale that any guitar player learns. So that's, pause the video if you want to there. Bearing in mind this is all going up as a PDF on the Facebook group as well if you need it. And we've also got the tabs. We've also got the tabs there. So feel free to pause the video and get those under your fingers. Now the way that I want you to think about this is, those are the colours on the artist's palette. So I want you to put the backing track on that I've linked in the description, and I'd like you to use those scales to almost make a little tune-up over what's going on in the background. So all these notes that we've got here, you can play in any order, any number of times, slide into some of them, bend some of them. improvisation, the world's your oyster, and you can do whatever you like with those notes, but all I ask is for now you stay within the confines of those notes and you don't go playing away, okay? I can't use the backing track in the video because it's not mine, but I've just set a loop up that's very similar. We've gone for a slow blues to start with, hence why I've got the 3-5-5 out, so I'm channeling a little bit of his inner BB King. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those notes that I've just displayed on the screen, and I'm going to start kicking about and try and make a little melody and a little tune out of what we've got. So if we go to my B cam so you can see what I'm doing, I'll start with just using the first position. And you can play these in any order. This is all off the top of my head. See how I put that little slide in? Hopefully that illustrates my point, and you know, I know a couple of people in the group said, I don't know if this is quite at my level. I'm trying to start at the very beginning for you. A couple of the guys in the group will probably be at this point already, but I still want you to chuck some clips of you playing it in the group, guys. It's really important. If all you can manage is playing up and down at the same time, so be it. It's really difficult to teach the first stages of improvising because the ball is completely in your court. The best advice I can give you is use those notes in any order, any number of times to try and give yourself a little melody, a little tune. Let's go again, but I'm going to use some second position. Flash, and I'm purposefully not putting bends and stuff in. So the sole purpose of this week's class, this week one of the challenge, is just to introduce the idea of you playing a little bit of lead guitar that's completely of your, it could be any rhythm, any number of notes. The only caveat is that you need to stay within those pentatonic notes that I've given you, and give yourself, I want you to, it's a really daunting thing putting the camera on and filming yourself, but if you can, use the backing track, get a little clip, post it on the Facebook group. We've got a really, I think there were about 60 here came back to me and said that you were up for having a go. Please do. The more people that post in that group, everybody's so supportive, and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. So okay, you've put the backing track on, you've kind of had a kick about, you probably feel really lost, probably feel like it doesn't sound like much. Now, you need that foundation for us then to pile loads of extra stuff on top. So if we go back to the first slide from today, I said introduce the root note and money shot bends. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we go to this slide over here, now all of the red notes are what we call root notes. Let's talk about those first. Now, a root note is... take a screenshot if you need to, or get the PDF from the Facebook group. Root notes are if we're in the key of A, a blues in the key of A, we're going to use, A is going to be as root. Think of it as the head of the table, the head of the family. All of those red notes are A notes. Now, why is that important? Well, this is starting to get you to think about what you're actually playing rather than just playing numbers on a tab. Now, a root note would be a really good place to either start or finish your solo on. It'd be a really strong note. So can you see the 7th fret of the D string? That note there. I start there most of the time because it's a root note. I know it's safe. If I start somewhere else, it doesn't sound bad, but it's not as... it's not as definite, okay? So I want you to practice. I want you to give you somewhere to start from. So that's why root notes are important. Now, money shot bends. What's a money shot bend? Well, you see in each of the, there's 3 of them in A minor, position 1, and then there's just the one that I've put in position 2. Now, all of those notes can be bent a full step. And what I mean a full step, you're going to bend that note so much so that it sounds like the note's 2 frets higher, what we call a full tone. Now don't worry about, if this sounds like gibberish to you, don't worry about the distance too much right now. I just want you to bend it till it sounds good. If you're a little bit more advanced, do a full bend for me, okay? Now I'm going to go back to improvising over that backing track, but I'm going to start putting some bends in, and you'll see that it starts to sort of sound a little bit more like music. Let me show you. Some guitars make you play a certain way, and this one, it wasn't awfully expensive, but it's just, it just makes me play a certain way. It's excellent. So each week that goes by, I'm going to give you some vibrato exercises to do, some hammer-ons that'll sound really good. We'll maybe talk about licks in the 4th week and why licks are important. 4 weeks, if I could teach you how to blaze over a load of backing tracks in 4 weeks, I would charge a lot more money than I do for guitar lessons. It's quite a long journey. Somebody described it in the Facebook group as the route to Mars with roadworks, which made me chuckle. It's going to take a while, and the main point of this whole little 4-week mini course that I want to do is to give you the tools to be able to kind of just have a little jam, and proverbially if you're having a bit of a blues jam, meeting up with another guitar player, you'd be sort of feel like you're better equipped to deal with that situation. So this week's assignment, I'm looking at the bottom of this slide here, create a simple improvised solo using the pentatonic scale. If you're going to take a video clip and put it on the Facebook group, I'd like it to last between 30 and 90 seconds. I know some people have put 15-minute odysseys on the Facebook group. If it's that long, I'm going to struggle to watch it. So between 30 and 90 seconds, and post it in the Facebook group. So week 2, what's involved in week 2? So I'm calling this week 2, phrasing and dynamics, making improvisation musical. So I'd like to explore phrasing concepts, call and response, spacing between notes. I'd like to talk about adding bends, slides and vibrato, tools for expression, and talk about the guitarist tool belt a little bit more. For this week, I want you to play over a moderately paced backing track with some more chord changes. We're still in the same key, A minor, and the assignment is to improvise a solo focusing on phrasing and dynamics. So I'm going to come back to this slide quite a bit today. Phrasing and dynamics. What's phrasing and dynamics? So phrasing, let's start with dynamics first. So dynamics is, think of it as how loud you are compared to everybody else. Now, have you ever spoken to somebody or been at an event or something and somebody's voice just travels from the other side of the room and you try to talk to somebody and all you can hear is their voice is at a frequency which grates on you. That's what that is. And you can't help but you try to focus on this person, but all you can hear is this other person's conversation and it's really distracting. Now, don't be that guy. Now, what I mean by that is, you don't have to be going guns blazing all the time. Lighten up a little bit. I've come up with a loop that's very similar to the backing tracks. Again, I don't want to use this other dude's backing track. It's a different one. Still in A minor, but I'm gonna play it like my regular volume, and then I'm just gonna kind of just take my foot off the gas a little bit. See what it sounds like. there that I played with my thumb a little bit. I'm really trying not to pick the guitar as hard now. I don't know, those of you that have been to the mill before, we're at a cold spell, unusually cold at the minute, and my hands are freezing. So I'm trying to be as mobile as I can. But I want you to try and just lighten up a little bit, and you want the ebb and flow of the conversation. So that's the first thing I'd like you to think of. And then secondly, was it phrasing? Yeah, phrasing. So dynamics is how loud and how soft you're playing them. And then phrasing is, think of it as, it kind of ties into call and response. You want to think of your little phrases like a conversation. You want to say a little bit, and then there's a question, there's an answer. You want to add something to the conversation, but call and response is kind of like you're having both ends of the conversation because you haven't got anybody else to jam with yet. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to play a lick, and then I'll play another lick maybe at the opposite end of the scale, or I might even play one lick in position 1 and then the reciprocal one in position 2. See what I mean? Ask a question and an answer. Or you could play the same lick in 2 different places. Try again. I just want to highlight what happened there. If you hit a bad note and it's really wrong, just kick it 1 fret one way or the other. Miles Davis said you're never more than a semitone away from a good note. You know, if you hit a note and it's really bad, and you see it instinctively, I can't remember which direction I went in, but I just kicked it 1 fret either way, and all of a sudden all was right in the world again. But it's the attitude. You see me smile and just kick it one way. Don't let it put you off. It's part of the process and it's part of the experience. Just enjoy it for what it is and try not to get too sort of bent out of shape when it goes wrong, because what's different is I can laugh about it when it goes wrong, and you guys haven't got that confidence yet, and that's what we're trying to work on in this little 4-week course. So far, we've worked on call and response and space between notes, thinking of it like a conversation, thinking about phrasing and dynamics. Now, play with bends, slides, vibrato, and notes for expression. So what do I mean by that? So we talked about money shot bends last week in week 1, didn't we? So I want you to keep the bends. I talk about the guitarist tool belt all the time. So just for those of you at the back, I'm just going to run through it really quickly again. I have a theory that a guitarist should have a tool belt like a builder does. A builder will have a hammer, a spirit level. I hope he's got a spirit level. If he's a good builder, he should have one. A screwdriver, a hammer, a Stanley knife, that kind of stuff. You want to be collecting your tools to be able to be a good lead guitar player. Vibrato, bends, hammer-ons, pull-offs, trills, slides. You know, those are there's probably quite a few more that I can think of, but those are the ones that strike me off the top of my head. And I want you to, those techniques aren't going to go in unless you consciously practice those. So this week I'd like you to think about sliding into notes. Was it slides and vibrato? Yes. I want you to think about sliding into notes. So think about your improvising. If you think, right, I'm going to start here. We're in A minor and we're using shape 1 pentatonic. If I'm going to start on this 5th fret of the B string, well, instead of just starting there, could I slide into it? Am I hanging on to a note for a while? Give it a little shake. With vibrato, think about how when you're sitting on a note, you should be, rather than just sort of sitting in it and enjoying it, you should be thinking about where you're going next. You're buying yourself some time to move forwards. And that might be you looking at your fretboard and going, right, I want to go into 2nd position now, but how am I going to get there from the note that I'm playing? It's all a tactical game. You can slide into any note. You could do a couple of notes. You could do the Chuck Berry thing. You could do 5th fret of the B and the high E strings. Slide from fret 4 into it, like that. You know, the sort of Johnny B. Good kind of thing. I like to slide into that and then play 2 extra notes. You could do that. Vibrato. So, this week's assignment, I would like you, please, to improvise a solo, focusing on phrasing and dynamics, and I'd like you to try and get some slides and some vibrato in there. I don't want it to become like a bar of soap that you're struggling to keep hold of. You don't have to be that slippery, but give yourself a couple of key points. You're like, right, I'm going to put a slide in here. I'm going to start with a slide, or I'm going to end with a slide, or I'm going to try that little lick with the 2 5th frets, the Chuck Berry thing that I was talking about. Give yourself some space and think conversationally. Next week, we're going to add an extra variant of the scale on top of it and talk about potentially doing it in other keys. And I'd like to talk about the licks before the 4 weeks is out. Keep up the great work. I'm loving all the entries. I'll see you over on the Facebook group. Thank you. And what I'd like you to think about is licks, how to play licks, how to put them into your improvisation, and my personal approach to licks and how to use them. So all the tabs for this will be in the first link in the description that you can download for free from our private Facebook group. And every week in this challenge I set an assignment as well. And this week's assignment, I'd like you to, if those of you that are willing and able to, I'd like you to post a clip in the Facebook group, about 60 to 90 seconds, and try and squeeze one of these licks in that we're going to talk about today. So here's what we're going to talk about. I've got 3 licks for 3 varying levels. We've got this lick. What I'll do is I'll play each one for you, and then we'll explain what we're going to do with these. So this is the first one. It's just a 4. All we're using, shape 1 minor pentatonic. That's lick 1 that we're going to talk about. Lick 2. And then lick 3. Now, those seem pretty advanced, and what the idea is that you've got level 1, 2 and 3, but you can use whichever of these you see fit. So the whole point of a lick is to buy yourself a little bit of thinking time to go elsewhere. And also, you'll find certain points where a certain little lick that you're saving in your back pocket will come in, and it stops it all sounding a bit plinky plonky. What I'm going to do, I'm going to improvise a little bit, and then I'm going to play this second lick. I like this second lick here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to improvise a little bit, and then I'm going to put that lick in when I start to run out of ideas, and you'll hear it when I do it. I've just got a little A blues shuffle. Did you hear me put it in there? Yeah? Do some more. So the idea of a lick is it's just a little bit of something fruity that makes everybody's ears prick up. Now there's a million ways to use licks, but my personal approach is I'll play something familiar and use it as a springboard to go somewhere else. So I explained this in a podcast we did recently. When that's available, I'll put a card up for it. Now, use it as a springboard either to somewhere else, or if you're starting to run out of ideas, you'll find it sort of puts you in a different place, either within the position or within the neck of the guitar, which will then yield some more ideas. And you could be like that first lick here. You know, let's have a look at this one. So it's only 4 notes, and all we're going to play is we're going to play this A note on the 5th fret of the high E string. With my ring finger, I'm going to play the 8th fret of the B. I'm then going to go to the 5th fret of the B string. Can you see how I've come up there? and then that 8th fret, I'm going to bend it up. Da, 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 da. So I could be jamming along. Can you see how that it was just a little, I repeat, so you don't have to, you can repeat a lick as many times as you want. That one in particular I would probably sit on for a while. And you hear how like sometimes I'll pick an extra note a couple of times. These are meant to be played with and pulled apart. Full PDF for this in the description with all 3 of the licks. Let's have a look at this Angus Young kind of AC/DC style one, hence why I got the SG out today, because I like this lick when we're teaching licks, because it's the... you get some good results fairly quickly. So we're going to bend the 7th fret of the G string. Now I'm going to bend that with my middle finger, because that's the way Angus would do it. If you're struggling with your middle finger, feel free to use the ring instead. But you're going to bend that a full step, which means you're going to bend it the equivalent of 2 frets. I'm then going to play the 5th fret of the B string, and then I'm going to play the 8th fret of the B string. Da da da. And then to mirror that, I'm going to do the same 2 notes again, bend on the 7, 5th fret of the B, and then I'm going to change this 8th fret for this A note, this root note at the bottom here. So you get this alternating kind of ending. And I'm going down, up, down, 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 up. As long as you're doing some alternate picking there, world's your oyster really. Well, how does that sound in the thing? Now it doesn't have to be mega fast. I'm just playing it fast because I don't want to take too much of your time up today. But you could play that at half that speed and it'd still sound wicked. All I'd say is just make sure you bend into the right note, otherwise it'll sound a little bit flat. Okay? So far we've got lick number 1, lick number 2, and lick number 3 is a bit more of a Chuck Berry kind of style. Now I want you to play a bit of spot the difference, because there's one note here which doesn't belong in the minor pentatonic scale. It's this dude over here. Now, I don't want to get too wrapped up in that. That's called a major third. It's an old sort of like rock and roll, rockabilly kind of guitar trick. And you hear it in things like Johnny Be Good and Roll Over Beethoven. I just want you to take it for what it is today, and we'll explain it a little bit further down the line. I don't want to get too wrapped up in that. I want you to start making good sounds to begin with. So, and it's all double stops, is this. Now, a double stop is where you play 2 notes at the same time. So if rather than going, I could play 2 strings, and it gives you that sort of, gives you that really thick kind of thing. Richie Blackmore used it a lot, and he's not the only one. Guitarists for eons have used where they play 2 strings at the same time, and you're essentially harmonising with yourself. So we're going to try and pick a little bit of that out. So what we're going to do, we're going to bar with the index finger, we're just going to bar 2 strings, the B and the high E, and I want you to slide into that 5th fret initially. Now I'm going to slide from fret 4. Now it doesn't really matter where you slide from, but I find that with this rock and roll kind of style, 1 fret's sufficient for this. So you're going to pick both the strings and slide in, and my index finger's covering both the B and the high E. And as soon as my plectrum strums the string, I'm sliding. So after I've done the slide, I'm going to pick that 5th fret 2 more times. So I'm playing 3 5s in total. Practice that for me. I'm then going to take my ring finger and I'm going to bar the 7th fret of the G and the B, and I'm going to do another double stop there. I'm then going to bar with the index finger, the 5th fret this time of the G and the B. So I'm still on the same strings that I've just played, but I've come back to fret 5 and my index fingers had to come up a little bit. And I'm going to pick those 2 strings. We'll talk about that 6 in a second, but just get those first sort of 5 notes down first. Now, once you've got those 5s resonating, I want you to take your middle finger and I want you to hammer on without picking again. I want you to hammer on to that 6th fret of the G. And you know, it creates a little bit of tension. Let's hear it in context. Now that's a really good one that you can sort of play over and over again with a. You can sort of play that lick 3 or 4 times and it won't get boring. So this week's assignment, please, I'd like you to practice improvising on either the new backing track that I'll give you this week that's in the description, or any of the previous 2 backing tracks from the previous 2 weeks. And I'd like you to do everything that we've done so far up to this point and try and get one of those licks in at least for me somewhere, and practice sort of picking something you like the sound of and then using it in context. Now, what I tend to do with licks is I'll hear something that I like, guitarists that I like, Freddie King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, those kind of guys. I'll hear a lick and I'll learn a lick in one of their solos and I'll go, do you know what, I'm going to steal that and I'm going to make my own lick up. And this is where you start to borrow from guitar players that you like, and that's how you kind of start creating your own sound. I'll do a whole other video on that. How are you getting on in the challenge? Have you posted a video? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week for week 4. Thank you so much. Week 4, I want to talk about putting the natural minor scale over the backing track. So I'm just going to pop this on the screen while I'm waffling. So the natural minor scale is like a more grown-up version of the minor pentatonic. So pentatonic, the penta part means 5. It's a 5-note scale, and after 5 notes it just repeats itself. So in A minor, for example, it's A, C, D, E, G, and then A, C, D, E, G, etc. The natural minor scale takes all of the remaining notes, which is 2 extra notes, and adds it on top of that framework. So if we have a look over here, on the left hand side we've got position 1 of the minor pentatonic that we've been using, and then can you see on the right hand side there's a lot more notes there, but actually once you break it down, I'm hoping that you can see the parallels in this. This is why I've put them side by side. The natural minor scale is just, you can directly overlay that onto the minor pentatonic, and the share, all of the notes in the minor pentatonic are in the natural minor scale with the exception of a few extra dudes. Now what I'd like you to do, if you can, take the PDF that accompanies this lesson and try and sort of pick out what's different. So I'm seeing there's the 7th fret on the low E string, that's not in the minor pentatonic. The 8th fret of the A string, that's not in the minor pentatonic. The 4th fret of the G string, the 6th fret of the B string, and then the 7th fret of the high E string. So let me just play the minor pentatonic first. And then the natural minor. Now there's a lot of cool songs that use that natural minor scale. You might have also heard it referred to as the Aeolian mode, and we'll talk about that in future lessons. But if you think of songs like Crazy Train or Sweet Dreams, I did a lesson on that. It uses that really dark sort of minor sound. Now, how does this sort of fit our improvising? Well, for this week's backing track, which is linked down below, I've opted for a modified version of BB King's Thrill Is Gone because I feel like it's a really good platform for this. Now, I don't want you to use the natural minor scale exclusively. What I want you to do is I want you to use the pentatonic as your bass, and then I'd like you to use little sprinklings of the natural minor scale to almost sound like, sounds a little bit more intelligent for lack of a better term. It makes it sound like you know what you're doing, and that's coming from me. I'm going to put the scale on screen so you can have a blast up and down that with the tabs. But I'm just going to do a little bit of playing at the same time. And I'm going to play a predominantly minor pentatonic, but then you'll hear all of a sudden it kind of turns a corner and gets this different sound, and that's because I'm putting this scale in down here. So this is all minor pentatonic. Natural minors. Hear how it's different. Minor pentatonic. Natural minor. Sorry, I got a little bit lost in that. It's quite easy to do, is lose yourself in this stuff. So I want you to think of the natural minor scale as like it's just another tool in your tool belt to add a little bit of class. Now, if you improvise, think of it like seasonings in food. If you put too much salt on your food, it tastes gross, doesn't it? But you want just a little bit of it because you want that flavour. Think of this as that. You don't want to use it all the time, otherwise it starts to sound a bit too jazzy. But you want to just take a little bit of it because a little bit of it's good, you know? Now, how do you practice this? Well, what I'd do is I'd get the PDF from the first link in the description. I would practice running up and down the scale. So minor pentatonic to start with. And then I'd work on overlaying the natural minor. So again, for those of you at the back, that's that one. And how I'd start practicing that with the record, I would start practicing that with the backing track and part of this week's assignment. I'd like you to play a little bit of minor pentatonic noodling, for lack of a better term. And then I'd like you to just put a little bit of minor scale in. And it doesn't have to be anything too flash. It doesn't have to be, you know... doesn't have to be anything flash like that. What I'm looking for is just run up and down, maybe half a dozen notes to the scale. So you've got... So that's minor pentatonic. And then I'll put some natural minor. Minor pentatonic. Natural minor. Those scales are a really good way for you to get loads of notes in. I'm thinking of guitar players off the top of my head that had... Oh, my pig's gone. I'm thinking of guitar players off the top of my head that you can kind of listen to for that, to get that vibe. I'm thinking people like Carlos Santana is a really good example. I think other guitar teachers online sort of label it as emotive guitar playing, which I've done a video on a long time ago if you've been following me for a while. And this is an extension of that. If you want to just inject a little bit more emotion outside of the plinky plonky pentatonic, which is nothing wrong with, mind you, it's most of my playing's pentatonic, it just gives you that extra little bit of sauce. So for this week, I would like you to, the assignment for this week is pop that on the Facebook group and have a go. And I've got one more week that I want to bolt onto this. This was supposed to be a 4-week course, but I'm bolting week 5 on because I don't want to overface you. And I want it to sort of, the guys that have been here from the very beginning, you've had a week to sit on that concept before I've piled extra on. And if you're coming back to this after the fact, we're currently in February 2025, if you're coming back to this after the fact, just make sure you're giving yourself enough time to take each of the lessons on, otherwise it'll be a little bit overwhelming for you. Week 5, which will be his final week for this current challenge, I'm going to run some more on the Facebook group, don't worry about that. But I'd like week 5 to talk about doing everything that we've learned so far and how to move it around to different keys, which I think would just nicely sort of put a full stop at the end of that, and we can kind of move on to something else. Have you found the challenge? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next week for the 5th and final week of this challenge. Thank you so much. Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirklees Guitar School. So this is week 5 of our improvising challenge that we've run. So I decided to add an extra week onto the back end of this challenge because I feel like we needed just there's a couple of little sort of loose ends that I wanted to tie up. So the whole point of this challenge was to get you improvising with backing tracks over a blues and just give you a brief kind of synopsis of how I would teach you to start improvising initially. Now, over the past, thank you for everybody for your entries. You've done really, really well on the Facebook group, and I'm really, really pleased with the outcome and how much turnout we've had for it. Now, I need you all to understand that it doesn't stop here. The hole is far deeper than this, but I feel like stopping at this lesson today will give the layman a brief understanding of soloing and whether they want to scratch that itch a little bit further. I think it's also important to say that my lessons aren't just about improvising, and the Facebook group isn't just about improvising. So I wanted to kind of put a pin in it for now and potentially go look at some other bits, and then we'd revisit this later. If you think of another series that you think this format would work really well for a topic around guitar, let me know in the comments. So to round this off, I want to talk about playing in other keys, because everything that we've done for the past 4 weeks has been in the key of A minor, which is great, but you will have so much fun over the next month just taking what you've learned from these 5 weeks and applying it to loads of different backing tracks on YouTube. So I want to take what we've learned so far, build upon it for improvising in B minor, G minor, E minor, B blues, E blues, G blues, etc. And I want to clarify that a little bit at the back end of the video, so make sure you hang around for that. So, what is a key? A key is a collection of notes that work really well together. We organise keys and groups into notes of groups of 7, and we'd say something like Bad Moon Rising's in the key of D, Sweet Caroline's in the key of C, Sultans of Swing's in D minor. You need to know as an improvising guitar player what scale to use. Now, everything that we've done so far has been using the minor pentatonic scale. Like I said, the hole gets a lot deeper, but I don't want to pile loads of different scales at you. I just want you to have a brief understanding with a couple of scales and decide whether it's for you. Now, the A minor pentatonic looks like this. I'm just using the first position for these examples, just so this lesson doesn't take forever. Right, we've been playing that shape for the past month. Granted, you can go up into second position and up into third if you want, but I just want you to understand this around first position, and then if you want to go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, you can do it at your leisure, okay? Now, that's the A minor pentatonic. That shape starts on an A note. Now, again, just layman's terms, we are just at the beginning of this. I don't want anyone on Reddit getting cross with me. The first way to think about this is the first note is an A, so that makes that A pentatonic, A minor pentatonic. If I was to change this note to somewhere else but use the same shape, say here, I've still got the same shape where like I start on my root note, up 3 frets, down a string, 2 frets gap, 2 frets gap, 2 frets gap, 3 frets gap, 3 frets gap. Can you see how the shape is the same? I've just moved it to another part of the neck. Now before we move on, I'd like you to play the A minor pentatonic for me now. Do it with me now. Just in one direction. don't have to be that fast. Now I want you to move that shape up 2 frets. So instead of starting on fret 5, you're starting on fret 7. Same shape, 3 fret gap, 2 fret gap, 2 fret gap. Should look like this. Well, that's in B minor pentatonic because this note here is a B. Now, how do I know that's a B? Well, included in the PDF that goes with this lesson, I've put this up. Now, all those notes are on the low E string. Notes on the low E string. So can you see fret 7 tells you it's a B? We were previously on fret 5, which is an A. If you were to play at fret number 10, it'd be D. So this is all hinged on where your first note of this particular scale. It doesn't work for all scales, but just for now, like I say, we're in this teeny tiny little corner of a really big topic, okay, and it gets a lot deeper than this. But to start with, that first position of your either your natural minor or your minor pentatonic, that's the key. Okay, so at fret 5, I've prepared a 12 bar. So that's the key of A minor. I am going to have to change this. So let's delete that. I'm going to play something in B minor. Right. I can't play A minor pentatonic over that, it'd sound gross. Sounds a bit too much like jazz. But if I use this one, there's nothing in that hasn't been covered in the previous 4 weeks worth of lessons in this course. All I've done is I've just changed the key. Now, why is that important? Well, if you played everything in A minor, it'd start to sound pretty dull, to be honest. And also, I want you guys to have the freedom to be able to go onto YouTube and type blues backing track. And if there's a blues backing track you like the sound of and it's in the key of G, well, how do I play in G? Well, from what I said a couple of minutes ago, it makes a lot of sense that, right, we need to find where a G is. So I want you to print out the PDF. Let's have a look. Where does G sit? Okay, 3rd fret. So if I play that minor pentatonic position from the 3rd fret, okay, the tab fairy, just getting rid of my loop. Right, let me play something in G. Right, let me play in G minor pentatonic. You see how this all fits? We're just moving where that shape starts from. And your 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th positions of your minor pentatonic will bolt onto that. Now what I want you to do for the first week or so, don't break out of that first pentatonic box. In the link for this video, in the description for this video, I'm going to link 4 backing tracks in 4 keys. First key is A minor. 2nd key is B minor. 3rd key is G minor. So you see, like we've been going up so far, but you can actually go the other way as well. G starts on the 3rd fret. And then finally, E minor, which is right up at the dusty end. Now, that's all the way up here. I want you to get used to the idea that it's a movable shape, and you move it, you manipulate that shape to get what you want out of it. And that's how, I don't remember every guitar chord and every scale that there possibly is. What I remember is how to manipulate what I've got in there to get what I want. And that's how you keep it all in your head before it, and so it doesn't dribble out, okay? I feel like that's a really fitting kind of end to this sort of little mini course on it. I'm going to do a full video. I'm gonna put all 5 weeks together into one big video and then one big PDF for this. So if you're watching this after a time of recording, we're in February 2025. If you're watching after this, you can sort of take it all in chunks and see it as one big PDF. But I think as well, rather than sort of going week 6, week 7, etc., I think now's a good point to stop and just kind of spend a couple of weeks really nailing what we've talked about before we go again. So, thank you for joining me on this journey. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for everybody for participating. Keep your eye out on the Facebook group because we are going to have a little chat about what's next. I'd like to cover another really niche topic of playing the guitar, and I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet, and I need some feedback from you guys as to what that is. So I will see you over there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.